Good news.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. The good news is I don't have to announce good news this week.
Oh, okay.
I finally don't have anything to rave and rant and be happy about. And
Loser.
I got rejected yesterday. Last night.
Yeah. Are we talking about writing or from the missus?
No, I had a story submitted to. It's a fucking dumb name, so I'm never gonna submit to him again. So Press, I think is the name.
Okay.
It was my light bulb story I submitted to them in March, and then at 10:30 last night when I was watching American Psycho, right at the climax with the chainsaw scene, I got a fucking generic rejection.
Oh,
you fucking assholes didn't read it. I hate those generic rejections because it's the kind of story, especially because I've had feedback from other places that rejected it. It's like you could fucking say a sentence or two about it. You know, not a good fit for us. Especially hate when they say at the moment. Well, then make it wait for the right moment.
yeah, like it doesn't matter if you have something else you think it's gonna be good for. Like that's fine too.
I think I'm at the stage of my publishing career where I could be indignant and just say that I really fucking dislike a lot of these literary publications that reject a story that, well, I could say, oh, might not be the best story. If you were to accept it, it wouldn't be the best story in that issue or in that, collection, but it wouldn't be the worst.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing is I read some of these or I've had in the past and everything's so fucking boring. I'm just like, why does every story just have to be this? It's a character study on divorcees and trying to quit smoking. And it's like, fuck you. I don't care about that stuff.
And also, too, like with that one, it took so long. It's like one thing if you submit something and like in a couple of weeks you get a generic rejection. It's like whatever, but like it took most of the year for them to get back to you, and then you get the
rejection. Generic rejection. I'm sick of it. I do have some hope though. I did manage to submit to that Halloween theology. What is that one called? Halloweeny anthology. It's a Halloween anthology.
Yeah,
Halloween anthology maybe. I managed to finish right at the deadline, so I don't know if I'll get in just because it was literally the last second. But I did finish editing an old story I had, and I submitted it. But I was really tired when I did. I was like falling asleep, so it might be a little shitty at the end. I don't know. I don't know how good it came out, but that one doesn't pay, so I'm not. I wasn't like.
There's just something.
Yeah, it said on their website they print paperback, but I'm a little wary of it anyway, just for the fact that they ended the submission September 17th. I want to say they opened the submissions in like a week or two before that.
Yeah,
so they only had a couple weeks.
Yeah, it wasn't a long.
Which
time.
usually makes me think I would have a good chance, just because like if people don't have a story ready to go, like if they're gonna write a story, they might not be able to do so in that time frame. But they said they're gonna publish in early October. That's where I get a little wary. It's like you're gonna edit the whole collection, get back to all these people, read all these submissions. I don't know, unless you have a whole team.
Right.
They seem like a small. If they're a press, they're small. So I think it was a press. I forget the name of it, but I am hopeful for that just because I think the story's solid enough. Like just for a creepy Halloween anthology, I think I got a good chance of getting in that. The only thing that would probably hurt me would be that I submitted like last. It was probably the last one. Did I submit to something else? Let me check my sheets here.
Look at your sheets.
Because unlike a Spencer Church,
who doesn't submit places and then when they do doesn't keep track of it.
Yeah, I actually keep track of everything properly. So Halloween anthology, I got accepted by the Anoia Review. Ooh. I don't know if I'm ever saying that name right, but we talked about that. That was my good news last week or the week before. No, I guess I don't really have any. I have a couple things pending, but I haven't submitted anything new because I haven't had anything done to submit. I want to start working on that novella I've been talking about that I have like a couple thousand words in or whatever, but it's daunting.
Yeah.
Like to get to not the length of a novella, like that's not a problem for me. It's the fact that when I reread it, it's so like the language I use and stuff, like to keep up with that. It's going to be rough, I think. Like it's because I was very detailed with how I wrote that so far. So I'm like, God damn, like I'm going to have to be serious.
You're going to have to get back into that.
Yeah. It's hard to get real serious about something sometimes. Like that's the thing, because I was working on some of these just fun Halloween-esque stories and murder horror stories, and those are easy, but this one's a gothic horror.
Yeah.
And that's more about setting an ambiance
and tone and all
atmosphere, all that stuff. So I'm just like, oh, man, I have to actually really be cognizant of how I'm going to write this story versus just telling the story. So that's that's putting a little bit of a dent in my morale. What about you? You working on anything good?
Even though that, because I was trying to work on a story for that horror anthology, and even though that I didn't get it done in time, I'm still just trying to finish Will, and like I think I'm finally getting the part to where some of the the good stuff can happen. So just to finish that one, because I kind of like the idea of it, and hopefully like I said, I like the idea that I think it could eventually find a place somewhere.
Yeah, that's the good thing about Halloween. It's every year too.
Yeah,
but also like the horror anthologies, almost everyone I've gotten into, except for the recent ones, have been outside of Halloween.
Well, I was gonna say that's the thing about horror is like
year long. Yeah,
it's like year round. It doesn't
Christmas seems to be the big time for horror. Surprise. Well, I don't know if it's surprising, but
we probably get those people who try like, I don't give a shit about Christmas. Give me some blood and gore,
Yeah, maybe a little semen.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have an episode for you today. I'm not gonna say good or bad, or I have no idea. We haven't come up with the topic.
I was gonna say, did we figure it out yet?
No, I haven't even given thought to it. But we will be back momentarily. You are listening to the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb James. With me today, Spencer, the Anaheim Arithmetic Avoider Church.
Oh, wow.
It's a nice one.
Yeah, and I don't like any kind of math, so it's,
I know you don't like maths. What do you feel about them British people that say maths with an S? It's technically correct, but
yeah,
I don't like it.
It's better than whenever I hear people who say monies.
Monies, which is also correct.
Is it?
It's more than one kind of money.
No, but okay. The one time it really got on my nerves is I remember we were in high school, and it was like our senior year, and one of our guiding counselors, it was like talking about like people like getting like money for scholarships, and we raised all this monies for people, and I was like, I don't think that's right. Like,
$1 is money.
Yeah.
$2
is monies. I don't like it.
I don't either, but it's just the way of the world. I don't know why you not pluralizing things.
Because it doesn't need pluralize.
Maybe it does. Yeah, you know what we're talking about today?
No.
15 famous horror authors and their terrifying books. This is brought to us by Capitalize My Tits.
Okay.
No, capitalizemytitle.com. Oh. Not tits.
Well, ever since we became friends with Whiskey Tits, it's not like...
It's not unusual for us to talk about titties.
Yep.
We always talk about titties. You know who's number one on this list?
Who?
Nobody, because it's not numbered. It's 15 famous. Again, we got a list. 15 famous horror authors, but not numbered.
You know what that is? I don't think... I just put them down in a certain order, but like that's not who I think is the best or whatever, to try to be like, I don't want to piss nobody off.
Or, more realistically, I didn't actually read any of these people.
True.
I stole it from another list that's stolen from a podcast about drunken guys in a pen and something else writing stuff. So the usual suspect shows up first on this list, and that is one Stephen Jerome King.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that was his middle name.
I don't think it is. I just said it. I don't know what his middle name is. Jerome doesn't seem fitting, but just Stephen King. So any list of famous horror authors wouldn't be complete without Stephen King. So what do you think? You think he deserves to be on the list? Is it the greatest? One of the greatest?
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, I think you'd have to, if there was like a Mount Rushmore, you'd have to throw him up there, most likely.
So you have The Shining, Carrie, Pet Sematary, Salem's Lot, It. I would say those are his seminal works.
Yeah.
Like in the more horror genre.
Yeah, probably. And those are all like early... early Stephen King.
Yeah. Once you get beyond that, you start to get into more genre melding stuff, a lot of sci-fi or fantasy, dark fantasy. So you think of Dark Tower, that's like dark fantasy, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, the Dark Tower is like a mixture of almost like every genre, really. There's Western stuff, there's sci-fi stuff. It's a real melting pot.
So where would you say a Stephen King ranks on your list of just strict horror writers? If you just go only horror stuff, and you'd have to put them up against like the Clive Barkers, your Tremblays, your what's the fellow with the boogeyman that we talk about all the time, Richard Chismar, because we read a bunch of his stuff.
I mean, I would have to put him up there probably like one or two. Though I do I haven't read any like Clive Barker, so there's guys that I have to
read more of.
Yeah, read more of, but of just me, probably personally, Stephen King would probably be in like that 1-2 slot.
Well, you'd be the good one to ask. What do you feel is his best horror novel?
I mean, I think it is like one of those ones I kind of immediately think to. The Shining's up there. I know I'm missing one or a couple. Like I'm trying to think of maybe some of his older stuff. But then you even have like weird Cujo. That's a weird horror kind. You get attacked by this crazy mad dog. Weird stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it'd probably be pretty bland. It'd probably be like I said, It or like Salem's Lot. You know what? I kind of like Salem's Lot, even though people said it's kind of like boring and kind of slow. But I enjoyed it. But I would probably like Shining or It probably
over Pet Sematary. That was the reader's pick here.
Yeah,
Pet Sematary.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I liked Pet Sematary, but
what about Misery? Where does that rank? Does that count as horror, or is that more thriller?
Yeah, because I was even thinking about I had it in my head for a minute but then you said something.
Gerald's Game, Dolores Claiborne, Revival.
I was thinking Revival, but I don't think
it's not horror.
No, it just has that weird bit at the end.
Same with Dr. Sleep. I wouldn't categorize that as straight horror.
No, that was more of like suspense kind of. Well, what about you? I mean, you haven't read it. Oh, The Stand, I was kind of thinking is a weird kind of horror. At least has horror moments in it.
I would have to say The Shining probably. Like I said, as people who listen to this podcast enough know, the scariest thing of his I've read was The Jaunt, that short story.
Yeah.
But that was sci-fi until the very end, so I can't say it's horror.
Yeah.
But it is very fucked up. Revival was one of my personal favorites, but that's more sci-fi fantasy. I don't know. That's a weird one because it's not really horror till the end.
Yeah, it just like I said, it has that weird bit at the end.
Yeah, I mean, there's moments sprinkled throughout, but it's not like a strict horror novel.
If anything, it's like a weird, almost like Frankenstein-y kind of thing.
Yeah. And then some of the short stories I've read, I don't think I've read any that were just strict horror either. So.
Yeah.
A lot of his short stories usually aren't horror, actually. Coming of age or just different stuff.
Or super like
Green Mile and Shawshank.
Man in the Black Suit or White
That's
Suit?
a good one. Maybe I would consider, if you would count that as horror, that would be my number one. Man in the Black Suit, but I would say, I'd say that's horror.
Because you're talking to the devil, right?
Yeah, that's pretty fucked up. I would say that one. So maybe that would be my favorite. Shining still takes precedence, but yeah, that would be a close second. Next up on this fake list, non-listed list, Anne Rice. Anne Rice is a celebrated American author known for her supernatural and gothic fiction. The main thing that she's known for is the Vampire Chronicles.
Oh,
I have not read those, though I have seen the Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt movie. Yeah, I'm not a big fan.
Yeah.
I don't like vampires. I actually think my vampire hatred stems from Anne Rice movies.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know if there's more than one movie, just that one. I don't mind. I'm just not into the vampire stuff too much. She also did the Mayfair Witches series and Christ the Lord. She's won a bunch of awards, had over 100 million copies of her books sold, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I've never read anything of hers.
They list the Vampire Chronicles as the must-read for her. The series follows the life of Lestat de Lioncourt, a French nobleman who turned into a vampire in the late 18th century. The books explore the nature of humanity and immortality and themes of love, loss, and redemption. Rice's vivid descriptions of Lestat's adventures in different parts of the world have captivated readers for decades. Like I said, I could definitely see people really liking this stuff. I'm not, that's not where I would go. Vampire stuff generally not where I go, but very, very celebrated. Here's the one we neither of us have read. My mom was a big fan, and we need to get to because apparently some say he's better than the king, and that is the Koontz. Dean Koontz. He's an American author known for his suspenseful and thrilling novels. He has had over 80 books published. Sold over 500 million copies, has one of the best haircuts in the biz, and his writing style is characterized by his ability to blend horror, mystery, and science fiction. So basically like a Stephen King.
Yeah. I do, and I see some of it, I see his books, on the shelves and stuff like that, and they look interesting. It's just where do you, because I think he's the guy who also has some series too.
Yeah.
So it's what do you start with a series, or do you try to find one of his one-offs? What do you go with?
Some of his notable popular works are Intensity, Watchers, and Odd Thomas. I know my mom read Odd Thomas, and she said it was good. Though I remember a complaint she had that struck with me when I was young, which is why I didn't get into him, was that he would be like describing a leak for a whole page or something. I don't know if that's a common occurrence in his work. I don't know if he was just bitching about one moment in one book. So his must-read book is Phantoms. Phantoms, yo.
I think I've heard of that one. Like,
the book follows two sisters who return to their hometown and discover that everyone in the town has disappeared. As they investigate, they uncover a terrifying secret that threatens their existence. Phantoms is a masterful blend of horror and science fiction.
Maybe next year.
Yeah, probably never read Coons. I have read this next author, Clive Barker.
You've read a good bit of his, haven't you?
I read the Books of Blood, the first volume, which is like, I don't know, it's big.
Yeah, I remember it being pretty thick when you showed it to me.
Well, it's volume 1, but they are like, the ones that I got are a bunch of volumes or something. I don't know, when they first released them, maybe they were like how mangas do it. Like, oh, you can just get the big collections, which collects volume 1 through 30. Right. But this we just call it volume 1. But the Books of Blood, very hit or miss. Some stories were really good, really imaginative, really gory. A couple of them I actually either quit or just fell asleep. Clive Barker is a British author known for his horror and fantasy fiction, and he's created such characters as like, the Hellraiser series. You got Pinhead, Candyman. He's had some things that were very popular, Midnight Meat Train, but then in recent years has kind of fallen off. You don't see people adapting his work too much anymore. Stephen King, when Clive Barker came out, said he was like the next, I forget the exact phrasing, but like the next horror guy. He was the next up, and the next king of horror or whatever. And he briefly lived up to it, but then he kind of fell off. I don't know why.
No, like he had pretty big involvements in the movies, like in movies and stuff, right?
Yeah, he got into like directing.
I was gonna say, didn't he direct a lot of those movies too? Like,
very talented guy, won a bunch of awards. Like I said, his stuff is really good. The stuff that is good. But just like any author, some stuff just doesn't
hit.
Yeah.
And maybe it doesn't hit you, but it might hit somebody else. Like,
the must-read book, Books of Blood. Books of Blood, a collection of short stories that explores the darkest corners of the human psyche. The stories cover a range of themes from revenge and betrayal to the supernatural and the macabre. The characters in the book are complex and well-developed, and that's what I read was the first volume here of Books of Blood. So the first volume is volumes 1 to 3. So if that makes it easier. The second volume, which I did not read, but I did read the stories, the one that has Candyman.
Okay.
Which isn't called Candyman. I forget the name of it now, but it was a pretty good story. But it's weird because the original iteration of Candyman was British, and it was a British slum, not Chicago. With the Cabrini Green slum, which works so well in the movies, it was white British Candyman, and a bunch of fucking ghetto British people. It was interesting, but it did not work the same.
They still have like the hook and everything.
Yeah, I think he was more colorful too, like his clothes. This next fella I never heard of, Bram Stoker. I don't think Bram Stoker needs much of an introduction. He's an Irish author known for Dracula. And basically that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's written other things, but most people just know him for Dracula. And if you create a character that fucking memorable, does it really matter if you wrote other things? His must-read book, can you guess?
Dracula?
Yes. Published in 1897, Dracula is a vampire story. We actually did a whole episode on this, so...
A couple years ago.
If you, on your podcast app, type in, whenever you go under the DPW, whatever it is, just DPW... If you search Dracula in our episodes, you'll find the Dracula episode. It was our book of the month last year, or the year before that, or 1 year.
It was before the
Chiz Marathon.
Yeah.
So you can go ahead and read Dracula and follow along with us, because maybe, you know what? No, we did it as the series, right? It wasn't book of the month. It was a, what did we call those? Do we still do those?
Not really, no.
We did like every episode was, because we did that with the Conan stuff too.
Yeah, well, that made sense, yeah.
The fuck was the name of that series?
I don't know.
Do we have a name for that? Or we just read Dracula Part 1, Part 2?
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. I have to look that up. I don't remember. This next author, never heard of. Shirley Jackson. Now, we...
also read.
If you want to be interested in behind the scenes, right before this episode, we recorded We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson, that episode for the book of the month for next month.
Yeah.
Should be out next month.
So,
this will be out next week, but that'll be out. This is confusing. Fucking my head up. Shirley Jackson, an American author known for her contributions to the horror and mystery genres. Her work often dealt with themes of isolation, madness, and the supernatural. Jackson's most famous novel, The Haunting of Hill House, is considered one of the best horror novels and a classic of horror literature. What got her really famous was her short story, The Lottery. Caused lots of controversy upon its publication in 1948 for its dark and unsettling themes. And she also has some other stuff like memoirs, essays, everything like that. Her must-read book, though, is The Haunting of Hill House, which I'll probably read third. I'm going to read Hangs a Man next, and then I'll read The Haunting of Hill House probably in the winter or something.
Do you think you're trying to just go through all the books first and then go through the short stories?
I haven't decided. The Haunting of Hill House is about 4 people who come to stay in a haunted mansion. One of them is Vincent Price. That's all you need to know if you watch the movie. Or the remake, which I thought was pretty good, even though it starred a strangely serious Chris Kattan. He wasn't the star, but he was in it. And that started Jeffrey Rush, who did a very good Vincent Price acting job, I think. If I'm remembering correctly. I like that movie a lot. They also did Mike Flanagan did the Haunting of Hill House series on Netflix. I love that series. It's really good, very, very well done. This next one is Spencer's personal favorite, Mary Shelley.
Your favorite.
Back in 1797, Mary Shelley was born. She's old. Still alive. Still putting out work, actually.
Yeah.
Is she?
I don't
1797, that was years ago.
Again, not good with maths.
Yeah. She's known for her gothic fiction, Frankenstein. Frankenstein was the seminal work of that period when it comes to gothic literature, but it is also one that revolutionized the sci-fi genre, according to nerds.
Yeah.
They say she is the great-grandmother of sci-fi. Is that a sci-fi novel? I don't think so.
Is it a horror novel?
No. I think it's a gothic novel.
Yeah. Again, we also did an episode on this if you want to.
Yeah, we cover this as well. You can look it up. Frankenstein. Must-read book, Frankenstein. It's Victor Frankenstein makes a monster, comes to life. Story deals with the what it means to be human. You know, all that fun stuff. Here we go, a little more modern, and one we haven't read, at least I haven't. Peter Straub, always heard about.
I've only read, he co-wrote 2 books with Stephen King. That's all I've.
Boners in the Mist and Boners on the Run. Yes. Didn't get that one. Boners on the Run. It's a sequel, so are they running from the mist?
With the boners are running to the mist.
To the mist?
Yeah.
Are they the monsters in the mist?
We gotta read to find out.
Nutsack. Peter Straub is also a part of our famous horror authors list. Really? I couldn't have guessed by the fact that he's on the list. Fucking redundant assholes. Fuck you, collectivetits.com or whatever it is.
I thought it was capital tits.
Capital tits. Does that mean they're bringing money in for the tits? Or there's just the word tits capitalized? He has written numerous novels and short stories, many of which have won prestigious awards such as the Bram Stoker Award. When you get an award named after you, that's when you know you made it. Do you think they're going to ever have a Stephen King Award? Should.
They should, yeah.
He also won World Fantasy Awards. Straub is also known for his collaborations with fellow horror writer Stephen King, including the novel The Boners in the Mist. Talisman. Yeah. Not Boners in the Mist. Talisman. I want Boners in the Mist.
You can write Boners in the Mist.
It's not a bad idea.
No. Send it out to one of those weird erotic, publishers.
I would love to be able to be talented enough where I could write a modern Frankenstein or something that would be celebrated worldwide, but I force the publisher to make it titled Boners in the Mist. It doesn't have boners or mist in any part of the book, but that's the name. I just if I was established like a Stephen King, and I would finally start putting out great work, but with the stupidest fucking titles. Must read books. Ghost Story. The novel tells the story of 4 elderly men who gather to tell each other ghost stories, but soon find themselves in a lemon party. Ooh, no, that's wrong. Find themselves facing terrifying supernatural events that are linked to their past. The book features complex characters, intricate plot points, and twists and haunting atmosphere and all that stuff. If you want a real scare, look up Lemon Party. People. So, there's no lemons. But it is a party.
Yeah.
Dealing with very old men.
Oh.
That's all you need to know. Graphic descriptions of blowjobs. What's in that? What's in that lemon party? Sorry, I had an outburst. Next up, I've never heard of this feller, but he looks quite constipated.
Oh, wow.
It's probably unduly mean of me. Ramsey Campbell. Ramsey Campbell is a British horror fiction writer who has won multiple awards for his work, including the World Fantasy Award and the Bram Stoker Award. He is considered one of the leading writers in the horror genre and has been praised for his ability to create suspense and building tension in his writing. He's written over 30 novels, hundreds of short stories, and many things that have been adapted to television and film. His must-read book, Alone with the Horrors, the great short fiction of Ramsey Campbell. I said that wrong. Ramsey Campbell. It is a collection of some of Campbell's most acclaimed and influential short stories. The book includes 28 stories showcasing Campbell's unique voice and ability to create terrifying tales. I always think it's interesting when a writer comes out that's celebrated like this, but doesn't have a seminal work, but instead all of their work is celebrated, but not to a degree that's known. So it's not like he has a Dracula or an It, Pennywise, or he just has stories that are good, but maybe none of them stand out above the rest, at least according to this.
Also, too, a lot of that also comes with time, too.
Yeah, that's true. This next feller is Edgar Allan Poe. We just did an episode of him about The Raven, which will be out next month.
Yeah, it hasn't come out yet.
Yeah, we discussed a lot of Edgar Allan Poe stuff. So, The Raven, he's done The Murders in the Rue Morgue, where he basically pioneered the mystery genre. He is known for The Telltale Heart, The Cask of Amontillado, Boners in the Mist. Somebody wrote that. I know it's out there. Must read book, The Telltale Heart and Other Stories. You get it. The Fall of the House of Usher is really good. And they also, Mike Flanagan did a Netflix show on that, which I really enjoyed.
That Mike Flanagan knows his horror.
He does. He also did I forget the name, Bly Manor, which I thought was a sequel to Haunting Hill House, but I found out that was I think Henry James' book that he made very creepy into a TV show. Ray Bradbury, who I'm reading now as of the recording this, I'm reading The October Country, which we covered in either last week or the week before's episode on Halloween books. Made me buy it.
Which is weird because I've obviously, I've heard of him in some of his his stories and stuff, but I never considered him like a horror guy until, recently.
I mean, so far what I've read of his is more creepy than horror, but Ray Bradbury was an American author known for his contributions to the science fiction, fantasy, and horror genres. His achievements include receiving the National Medal of Arts and a Pulitzer Prize citation. What is a citation? I was like, hey, we're not going to give you the award, but we'll say you're good enough that you could have won the award.
Normally, that's not good, like a citation.
You have to pay us money. He wrote over 500 published works, including novels, short stories, and plays. Must-read book, Something Wicked This Way Comes, which I mentioned on some episode. I don't even know which one at this point. Maybe the book episode we did a couple weeks ago. But I read that, and we covered it on Arcade Bookshop, which you can go and listen to. As far as I know, is still up and just not quite so active.
Yeah.
Bradbury's Something Wicked This Way Comes is a classic. It's about some kids. They find an evil carnival. That's all you need to know. It's written in a very poetic way that a lot of people either find amazing or a turnoff. Depends how aroused you are when you read it.
Can you read it with one hand?
You read lots of things with one hand if you're good at holding the book with one hand. Shut up, Spencer. Next up, did not know he looked like that. Richard Matheson.
Oh, no.
No, I always thought he had a fucking long, luxurious black raven's hair. But he doesn't. He's an old man. Oh, snap. It said, something's happening.
Whoa, what's going on?
Whoa, Jesus.
Did you get hacked?
Oh, no. I got booted. Capital Tit said, stop stealing our article and shitting on it. Well, since I can't read the article anymore, Richard Matheson did I Am Legend.
Yeah.
It's very good. Wait, I got it back.
You got it?
Got it back. Richard Matheson was an American author and screenwriter who significantly contributed to the horror genre. TV shows and movies have been based off his work. They've made many movies of I Am Legend, and he hated everyone.
Yeah, well, and then only the Will Smith one is the only one that's what's called I Am Legend.
Yeah,
there was Omega Man, and there was a couple different ones where they took that, but and just changed the name and stuff to it.
Must read book Hell House. Hell House is a horror novel by Richard Matheson, first published in 1971. The story is about a team of investigators who visit the Belasco house, a haunted mansion that was the site of various atrocities to prove existence of the afterlife. I also watched a movie based on that. That was pretty good, I think. The characters, each with unique personalities, uncover the mansion's dark secrets and face the evil that lurks within. Because I always confuse Hell House with Haunting of Hill House.
Right. Yeah, they're very
To this
similar.
day, I always fuck that
Yeah.
up. William Peter Blatty is next on the list. You know him?
I'm not familiar now.
Well, you should, because he's an American novelist, screenwriter, and filmmaker. He was born in 1928 in New York City, so if he's still alive, he is very old. In his 90s, if my calculations are correct. Blatty attended Georgetown University, and he got a degree. When they talk about their education, I'm thinking maybe not so great. I mean, they're great, but they're not having standout work. Let's find out, though. Oh, he wrote The Exorcist. Okay. There you go.
You did something.
Must read book? The Exorcist. If you've seen the movie, read the book. That's all you need to know. Blah, 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 blah. Victor Laval, do you know him?
No, I do not.
One of the most famous horror authors today.
Oh.
You fucking swine.
Yep.
Dollard. Dotard. It's another word for dumb guy.
Nincompoop.
I like that. That's a good one. Nincompoop is not used enough. Nimrod is, surprisingly. But when somebody calls me a Nimrod, I'm like, oh, and I'm a god? Is Nimrod a Greek god of stupidity? Or a king, at least?
Oh, yeah?
I think he's a king.
King of Stupidity?
Yeah, he was in the fucking Divine Comedy that we read. You remember? Why do you not remember Nimrod? He was in it. He was in hell.
Okay.
Being a fucking Nimrod. This guy's had a prolific American author career. I read that wrong. He received critical acclaim for his works. What did he do? Let's just find out what he did. His must-read book, The Ballad of Black Tom.
That almost sounds familiar.
That's a recent one, isn't it? Let's find out. This is a novella that was published in 2016. The book retells H.P. Lovecraft's short story, The Horror at Red Hook, but from the perspective of a black man named Charles Thomas Tester. Set in 20s New York City, the story follows Charles as he investigates a world of racism, poverty, and violence. Imagine what Lovecraft would think.
Oh my God, he'd be so mad.
If he knew a black man used one of his stories to get famous for having a black protagonist dealing with racism. I feel like Lovecraft would be very upset and good.
Yeah.
Fuck him. Jack Ketchum. Know Jack Ketchum?
Gotta catch them all?
Yeah, gotta catch 'em all. Other words from the Pokemon song that I totally know. We are ending our list of famous authors with Jack Ketchum. Really? I wouldn't have known. His real name was Dallas Mayer. He was born in 1946 in Livingston, New Jersey. Okay, I don't care about this writing career. I just want to know what he writes. His work often explores themes of violence, abuse, and trauma. Must-read book, Girl Next Door. The Girl Next Door is perhaps Ketchum's most famous novel. It was published in 1989 and is based on the story of Sylvia Likens, a teenage girl tortured and murdered by her caregiver in Indiana. Good God. The novel tells the story of Meg and her younger sister, Susan, who are sent to live with their aunt and her children after their parents die in a car accident. Behavior and violence and things ensue. What do you feel about stories that are based on actual events? Even if it's a fictitious story, it was based on a grisly murder or torture of a poor young girl. How does it make you feel?
I mean, I guess it depends on how it's done and like how long it's been since the thing that they're basing it off of, happened.
Yeah. I don't know. It feels kind of icky to turn something that was real and violent and awful and make it entertainment. If people know that was based on something real.
So what about like if like somebody wanted to do a story based around like the Black Dahlia or like something like that? Like, do you get the same thing, or is that since it was?
I think it's in bad taste, but like you said, time has a way of erasing some of our memory. So when you think of the Black Dahlia, that was long enough ago where you're like, we could tell a story similar.
Oh, then people would be dead by now anyways.
Yeah, but if you say, girl was kidnapped last year and murdered in the woods.
Yeah,
and you have a story based on that and you make it entertaining, it depends. If you just make it like, the serial killer is a giant piece of shit and needs stopped, okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know where I stand on that. I'm rambling. That was an episode.
That is what it was, an episode.
If you like us, then show us love on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Is that it? Instagram. At DPW Podcast. You can follow me at CalebJamesK.com to check out my publishing history. And Spencer, the Anaheim Arithmetic Avoider Church on OnlyFans. Yep. And it's just him running away from abacuses.
Yeah.
How do you pluralize abacus? Abacuses? Abaci. Abacusi. I like the word abacus.
Yeah.
I would use it more if abacus was ever needed in a story.
Right.
Unless it's old story, like setting wise, I don't know when you would use abacus.
You could have like somebody have one on like on a show for somebody, and they use it to smash somebody in the head with or something.
And he beat him to death with an abacus.
Yeah.
He assaulted him with an abacus. He jammed an ass full of abacus.
I think a lot of people be like, what the fuck is an abacus?
That's what I like to have words like that in stories where Gen Z has to look them up. But Gen Z doesn't read, so don't worry about that. Anyway, thank you for listening, and we will check you out next week.